The first round of the playoffs is officially over, and it gave us more chaos than anyone expected. 2 3-1 comebacks, a 1 seed nearly going home in the first round, and a whole lot of uncomfortable questions about some of the best players in the league. Welcome to episode 5 of the Glue Guy podcast. Let's get into it. We officially have outcomes for all 8 of the round 1 matchups in the NBA playoffs. We'll start today with a really quick review of each of those matchups. The 76ers handle the Celtics in the first round, winning 4-3, with Philadelphia completing the 15th 3-1 comeback in NBA history and handing the Celtics their first ever playoff series loss after leading 3-1. I'm wondering if Maxey and Edgecombe are the next great guard duo. Something similar to Clay and Steph, not in the same Splash Bros kind of sense, but with some of the same levels of excitement and intrigue for 2 excellent guards on the same team. The Knicks finally take care of the Hawks, winning that series 4-2, with Game 6 being quite a doozy. The Knicks ended the half with the largest halftime lead in playoff history, 47 points, a score of 83-36 at the break. Anunoby and Bridges both had excellent Game 6s, with Anunoby scoring 29 on 11 of 14 shooting and Bridges scoring 24 on 10 of 12. Knicks fans are desperate that Game 6 for those 2 guys might lead into an excellent series against Philadelphia, taking a little bit of pressure off of Brunson and Cat. The Pistons also came back down 1-3 and take care of Orlando, advancing to the second round. It's the first playoff series wins for the Pistons in 18 years. Lots of questions about what the Magic might do this offseason. I think keeping Banchero and the core that's in place with Wagner and moving on from their coach and running this back will make the most sense, but we'll see what they decide to do. The Cavs finally take care of the Raptors, which will keep me from comparing Donovan Mitchell to James Harden and both of their playoff performances. The real test, though, is if Donovan can get out of the second round. Minnesota takes care of Denver in 6, and Minnesota now leads Denver 10-9 when considering the last 4 seasons of playoff games and their last 3 meetings. Jokic averaged nearly a triple-double with 25.8, 13.2, and 9.5, still resulting in a Denver first-round exit, though. Lots to think about and discuss about Jokic and Murray later in the show. Timberwolves won without Anthony Edwards or DiVincenzo, or without DeSumo at the end of the series. Hopes and prayers that both Edwards and DeSumo will be able to come back quickly. Supposedly, Edwards is listed as questionable for Game 1, although it'll likely be Game 2 or 3 before we see him on the court again. The Lakers win 4-2 and avoid all of the will LeBron and Lakers blow in 3-0 lead conversation after taking care of business in Game 6 in Houston. KD played just one of the 6 games with a knee and ankle injury, which will keep him out of today's conversation later as we think about the impacts of the first round on some of the main guys' legacies. The Spurs and the Thunder both take care of their series in 5 games and in 4 games respectively. Since 2008, only one team has won the finals after playing more than 5 games in the first round of the NBA playoffs. If that trend holds true, we're looking at a 2-team race for the NBA championship this year, the Spurs and the Thunder, and we likely are trending towards a Western Conference Finals with those 2 teams. Now a quick round 2 preview. The 3-seed New York Knicks will face the 7-seed Philadelphia 76ers. Just a short train ride away from each other, we have an excellent rivalry matchup in the second round between these 2 East Coast teams. The number 1 seed Detroit Pistons will face the number 4 seed Cleveland Cavaliers. Both teams won Game 7s yesterday and had a long, drag-out, punch-out, knockout series. We'll see what kind of energy they come into for Game 1 and what Cade's Pistons can do against Donovan's Cavaliers. Out to the West Coast, the number 1 seed Oklahoma City Thunder will face the number 4 Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron and the Lakers are 9-1 underdogs, and with Luka likely not coming back until the end of the series, that might be generous. The number 2 seed San Antonio Spurs will face the number 6 seed Minnesota Timberwolves. Wembanyama against a really beat-up Timberwolves team. Hopefully Ant comes back quickly and we'll get to see a couple of the NBA's best play against each other for a long series. Lots to watch in the second round of the NBA playoffs, especially after an unexpected, really exciting first round. A couple of really quick hits as we look at the week in review and think about the week coming ahead. The NCAA Basketball Committee officially approved the expansion of the NCAA tournament to go from 68 teams to 76 starting in 2027. I know there's a lot of people upset with this expansion and the fact that we already have lots of middling teams in the tournament. However, this is one of the things that I'm behind and have been advocating for a little bit. I would love for some of these Tuesday and Wednesday first round matchups pre-tournament to be on campus at some of these smaller schools. I know that's likely not going to be the case, and we still will have a bunch of teams making a trek to Dayton, Ohio to play these first round games, but would love to see the NCAA Tournament Committee get creative in what some of those matchups might look like and how we might create even greater awareness for some of these small universities that are qualifying for the tournament. It's technically not officially confirmed, but sources stated that there was a very, very small chance of it being reversed. It's the first expansion since 2011 when the field initially went from 65 to 68. Cameron won the Cadillac Championship at Doral today, finishing 15 under, 19 under, 6 shots clear of the field, including Scheffler. He also won the Players' Championship earlier this season, and with the PGA Championship coming up in 2 weeks at Quill Hollow, a course known for being a bomber's course, we'll see if young Cam Young might be able to win his first major. Round 2 of the NHL playoffs are getting underway, with lots of exciting matchups. Baseball is still early in the season, although the Braves and the Dodgers are certainly the two most dominant teams. Unfortunately, lots of addendums on this episode. One of the mics of one of the guys in the roundtable segment didn't work. And so you'll have to fill in some gaps along the way, but for the most part, things should still make sense. Apologies for the necessity of a second interruption to the regular podcast, but here's the roundtable segment. We'll welcome back Michael and Bill. Michael, Bill, welcome. And we'll welcome for the first time Xavier.
What's up?
The end of the first round of the playoffs has brought up a lot of questions. There's been a lot of conversation about Jokic and the impact of his first round exit again. I want to focus on 5 guys, though, and where they sit right now at 29 years old. Jamal Murray, Devin Booker, Jalen Brown, Donovan Mitchell, and Jalen Brunson. Jamal Murray, I think, has never been considered the number 1 player on his team, which is fine because he's played behind Jokic his whole career, who is unequivocally going to be a top 15 guy in the NBA probably. He's been long regarded as a playoff performer, dubbed Playoff Murray during COVID, had some incredible playoff moments when they won the finals, but I think has since not lived up to that name in very many ways. Devin Booker has been great, talented, has scored a ton of points. I think has been the number 1 player on his team for a long time, maybe was second fiddle to Kevin Durant. But the year that he made the finals, I think was no doubt the number 1 guy on the Phoenix Suns. Jalen Brown got to be the number 1 all year. Obviously won a finals MVP, and I think a lot of people would still say he was never the best player on his team that year they won the championship. Now, we could argue and debate all of that, and maybe we'll get into that a tiny bit. But I think this year he had the chance to prove that he could get it done by himself in a Game 7, had an excellent game from a statistical perspective, but not the most efficient game. And at the end of the day, misses 3 of the last 5 shots. They lose, they go home. Donovan Mitchell has never reached a conference finals, but he's led 2 different teams to number 1 seeds going into the playoffs. I think has been the best player on his team almost from his rookie season moving forward, but has never gotten to a conference finals, let alone an NBA finals. And then Jalen Brunson, who had sort of a slow start to his career because he was playing behind Luka, but since getting to New York, I think has been a number 1 guy on a pretty star-studded team at times. But I don't think there would be any question about where he sits in the hierarchy of the guys on that team. So step 1, we're going to rank these 5 guys. Step 2, we're going to answer the question, can any of these guys be the best player on a championship team? Step 3, will any of these 5 guys end their careers as top 30 players all time? So who is number 5 on this list to you? If we're ranking from worst to least, we'll end with who we think is our best. I want to get consensus on who is worst first.
For me, it's Jamal Murray.
I think that's easy for me as well. Xavier, Bill,
Yeah.
heads nodding.
Yeah.
Bill, you're number 4.
Yeah, at the 4 spot, I would have Devin Booker there. He did have a great run taking the Suns to the finals. They didn't just lay over and die in that finals appearance either, but he has been nowhere close since, and I don't see the Suns going back anytime soon either. So I would probably have Devin Booker at the 4 between these guys.
To push back, second in career points per game on this list, third in career rebounds, third in career assists, is the only one who is maybe the best player on their team when going to the finals, which you stated. I don't think I disagree with Devin Booker being number 4, but Xavier, Michael, do you have any pushback against this? Is there another name you want to throw out for discussion, or can we settle on D-Book at number 4?
I'm good with Booker being number 4. I feel like there's a clear-cut top 2 and then a clear-cut number 5. And so for me, it's just like a debate between Booker and one other guy for that 4th spot. But I'll give it to Booker just because of how disappointing of a season this was and how disappointing it's been when Kevin Durant showed up. I feel like Booker's teams have underachieved other than that one year when they made the championship.
Second most all-star appearances and one of the 3 who's been in the top 5 in MVP voting. Again, I'm not disagreeing, but the stats for Devin Booker would definitely put him at 3 or 2, I think, which is interesting. And I think that this gets to your question at the beginning, Xavier, and the fact that like D-Book hasn't always won when he has been given some talent and some things to work with. We'll see what that means, and we'll sort of get into the conversation a little bit deeper with him later potentially. But I think we can say D-Book at 4. Xavier, you want to give us your number 3?
Browns won a championship, and Brunson. It feels a little bit unfair right now having this conversation after Brunson's team just dominated the 76ers last night, and Brunson has just been scoring at will throughout the playoffs. But in terms of right now, for me, who who do I want as my best player on my team? I'm putting those other 2 guys ahead of Mitchell for sure.
I agree. No kickback from me.
I am okay putting Donovan at number 3, but I actually think that the conversation between Brunson and Donovan is closer than Donovan and Booker. I think some of Donovan Mitchell's career has been besmirched or like not given as much attention because the beginning of it was in Salt Lake City, Utah. I think since getting to Cleveland, they've been like an excellent team in the regular season, and his playoff appearances have not been strong. But he has taken very little talent to high places in the regular season on a consistent basis. And I just think that if Donovan Mitchell and the Cavaliers go out and win the Eastern Conference Finals this year, I just think that like he will get catapulted into a new category because he has the most all-star appearances, because he's averaged more points per game than any of these guys, because he's, like all of these things. He's going to probably be top 5 in MVP voting for the second time in his career now. He's like, he would be at the top of a lot of lists with these other players. And so while I think that like I'm okay with putting him at 3, I actually think the conversation between him and Jalen Brown and Jalen Brunson is closer than the conversation between him and Devin Booker and Jamal Murray.
I would agree with that too. I think just pound for pound, I feel like he's probably the most talented of these 5. I feel like my gut reaction would be that if I were to like back back to a previous conversation, if I were to be a GM and I would have to pick one of these 5 players, I feel like Donovan Mitchell would probably be who I would lean on in this situation just because of his ability to control a game and dominate a game from everywhere. And we've seen what he can do with his best teammate being Rudy Gobert. I mean, he has the ability to carry a team um, to a 1 seed, but we just haven't seen the deep playoff success, and so I think that's why he ultimately lands at the 3 spot for me too. So
And I think there's probably 2 pathways. I think that he can be talked about similarly to his current teammate, James Harden, who also has never been able to get it done in the NBA playoffs, or he catapults into a likeliness with Isaiah Thomas or with some of these other guards who got it done a little bit later in their career and who then, right, vaulted up lists and, like legacy conversations because they did get it done. My assumption is, we're then gonna with the 2 Jalens, we're thinking Jalen Brunson and then Jalen Brown. Head
yeah,
nods. Just so that we can get into the rest of the conversation, we are obviously gonna deep dive a couple of these guys at the top simply because they will be the headliners of the next 2 conversations. So our ranking then, Jalen Brown 1, Jalen Brunson 2, Donovan Mitchell 3, Devin Booker 4, Jamal Murray 5. Can any of these guys be the best player on a championship team? We'll obviously go to Jalen Brown first.
I
Bill?
think he can. Yeah, I think he can. To me, it's not really that close between him and Jason Tatum. Even I have always seen him as the number 1 option on that Celtics team. I just think that he's a more efficient player and that he's a smarter player than Jason Tatum. And I think what hurts Jalen Brown's chances, aside from OKC winning the next 5 NBA championships, is just the style of play that the Celtics have. I don't think their offensive play style is designed to win an NBA championship. I don't think shooting 50 to 63 pointers a night is a recipe for success long term. Yeah, that's uh, there's always uh there's always the exception to the rule. And so I think that that's where he gets hurt because I feel like he's easy to build around. He's efficient. He plays off the ball well, and he takes smart shots for the most part. It was obviously disappointing to see how this year ended for Jalen Brown and the Celtics. But even Tyrese Maxey came out and said that he felt like the 76ers felt like as a team that they were more concerned with the Celtics without Tatum in the lineup than they were with him in the lineup. And I think that just goes to show how players in the league and other teams think about Jalen Brown and his standing in that team as well.
Xavier Michael, do you agree that Jalen Brown can be the best player on an NBA championship team?
The hard thing for me with this conversation is like, is he an incredible player? Yes. Is he, probably a top 10 player in the NBA? Probably, right? Could I see a scenario where he is the best player on a championship team? I can, right? So if that's kind of the measuring stick of where my belief is in him, sure, I believe he can be the best player on a championship team. Do I ever think he will? No. And I honestly don't think any of these players will.
So you don't
Um,
think 2 years ago he was the best player on his team then? You disagree with
no,
Bill?
I disagree with Bill. I think Jason Tatum has always been the best player on the Boston Celtics during this time. Specifically in that series, I disagreed that Jalen Brown even won the Finals MVP. Jason Tatum led the Boston Celtics in every statistical category in terms of points, rebounds, and assists. I don't remember the details of that series. It feels like maybe Jalen had a better final game of the series or last couple games. I can't remember, but I know statistically Tatum was better than Jalen. Um, and so Yeah, I think Jalen can be the best player on a championship team, but when we're talking about the Spurs and the Thunder and, any other up and coming team in the league, it's a hard path for any of these guys to win a championship.
For me, when I think about can somebody be the best team on a championship winning team, I just think back to last year and the run that the Pacers had. And Tyrese Halliburton could have been the best player on an NBA championship team. And if we would have had this conversation before the playoffs started last year, we all would have said no. We all would have said there's no way Tyrese Halliburton can be the best player on an NBA championship team, and they just about did it. There are people that think that if he doesn't tear his Achilles, that the Pacers do win that game 7, and he very well could have been the best player on that championship team. And so it's hard to it's hard for me to count out the best player on on a team that I could see make a run to the championship, especially in the East, because I feel like if you're able to make a run to the championship, that anybody's got a chance at that point. I mean, it's best of 7. You go out and win 4 games. I mean, if Tyrese Halliburton can do it, then or almost do it, then to me, it's an easy yes. Jalen Brunson could be the best player on a championship team. I feel like Jalen Brunson has proven that he rises to the occasion in the playoffs as well. Um, Incredibly efficient and such a great scorer. Ha- has led multiple teams now to deeper playoff runs than anticipated. Um, and and I feel like is undervalued and underrated. Um, Throughout the league.
Bill, is Jalen Brunson the last one on the list that you think could win a championship as the best player, or where does it end for you on this list?
Yeah, he is. I'd love to put Donovan Mitchell in that category as well, but I he, he hasn't given me anything to think that he can do it even when he led his team to a 1 seed and was playing better. I mean, I feel like peak Donovan Mitchell was his last couple years with the Jazz, and so I think for me, yeah, this tier would end with Brunson with these 5 guys.
And Michael, you said you think that Jalen Brown's the only one.
I think he's the only one that will, or like I can see, yeah, I can see a path for him being the best. It's hard. It's a hard conversation for me because I'm looking at the teams as a whole. Um, do I think in a vacuum Donovan Mitchell could be the best player on a championship team? Yes. Jalen Brunson as well, and I'll even add Devin Booker to that because I almost saw it with Devin Booker, and then kind of piggybacking on Bill's comment about Tyrese Halliburton. If you're going to ask me, if we add Tyrese Halliburton to this conversation, where does he rank on this list? I would probably put him number 5 and put Murray at 6. So how am I going to justify saying that, Brunson, Mitchell, Booker, or Brown can't be the best player on a championship team when Tyrese Halliburton almost did? Um,
100%
yeah.
agree. I think that Halliburton almost came on this list. He's 28, not 29, I think, which is all of these other guys were 29 years old. So they were at the exact same stage of life, sort of, which is why I grouped them together here. And I agree. I think that whether we have Devin Booker at 4 and Jamal Murray at 5, or we're adding Halliburton into this and he's somewhere in the 3 to 5 range and Jamal Murray's at 6. I want to push back Bill and Xavier on your line in the sand about who could and could not be the best player on a championship team, and want to see if, based on or reflecting on Michael's point and the point here, would you shift that, or do you feel strongly that these other guys just simply couldn't?
I think I could be swayed to add Donovan Mitchell to the list. I think that I could move my line to him a little bit more because if Tyrese Halliburton, rightfully so, is on this list and could and should be talked about as someone who could be the best player on a championship winning team after what we saw last year, then my gut feeling tells me that Donovan Mitchell has to be on the list as well.
Last question. Can any of these three guys end their career as top 30 all-time guys? I want to throw just a couple of names at you to sort of standard set who is around that top 30 list. Earlier, we talked about guys who got it done a little bit later in their career that maybe like transformed or changed the way we think about them. Dirk Nowitzki obviously won the finals in 2006. But when he was 29 years old, he had been All NBA 8 times, 3 times first team, 3 times second team, 2 times third team. And he had been named MVP of the league in 2007. Chris Paul, who on a lot of these lists is right around that number 30 mark, has not won a finals. He was second in MVP voting in 2008. He was at 29 years old, had been first team All-NBA 4 times, second team All-NBA 2 times, and third team once. And then Charles Barkley, who's another guy who's never won a championship, but won an MVP in 93, the year that he was 29 years old. And again, 7-time All-Star, 8-time All-NBA, 5 first-team All-NBAs, and 3 second-team All-NBAs. Now, to standard set with the rest of our guys, none of them have won an MVP, obviously. There have been a couple of them who have been top 5 in MVP voting, but never top 3. And then all of these guys have only ever been All-NBA 1 or 2 times. And none of them have been first-team All-NBA more than once. Now, the league is more talented than it's ever been. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Being on an All-NBA team is more competitive than ever. And these guys could play for a long time. We're seeing LeBron James carry a team to the second round of the playoffs at 41 years old. So anything is possible. But when we think about the careers of guys like Charles, Chris, and Dirk, do any of you see one of these 5 guys potentially surpassing or being in the same sort of conversation as top 30 guys?
It's a hard no for me. I mean, even just scrolling the top 100 list, I'll say for me, I don't see any of these 5 players ever being MVP of the league.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would be shocked if any one of these players at the end of the career was considered a top 30 player. In addition to like Bill's comment about stats and needing an MVP and winning championships and everything that goes into being a top 30 player of all time is also like their cultural and their star power as a superstar in the NBA, right? How kids relate to them, how popular they are, their shoes. Like it's not just what happens on the court, in my opinion. It's their impact as not only a player but as a person. And I don't think I'm going to be telling my kids, if I ever have kids, about any of these players. I think they're great players today, and but I don't think probably any of them are a top 10 player in the league today, let alone top 30 of all time.
Not even close.
I'm going to push back and simply say that I think that Jalen Brown certainly has the opportunity to. I think that there are 2 guys on this top 30 list or who are hovering around it in Scottie Pippen and in this like Karl Malone, John Stockton combination who were a 1-2
I
punch.
knew, I knew you'd talk about the Jazz guys.
And that like maybe Jalen Brown is a number 2 guy. I think that there is evidence that a number 2 guy could get there. I also think that in the swinging doors of the NBA, and we have had the big 3 era where guys are teaming up together. We've gone to like more of this era where people are building through the draft with the OKC Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs. I don't know what the next era will look like. And I think that if Donovan Mitchell or Jalen Brunson ended up in the right situation and all of a sudden had 3 or 4 championships and were a number 1 guy on their team or right close to it, like I think that 2 or 3 of these guys have the potential to be in that list. Now, a lot of things would have to go their way, just like a lot of things went the way of Isaiah Thomas or, like some of these other players. I think that they have the skill set and the ability to be there. Now, the ball has to bounce the right direction. And so far in their careers, it hasn't. And that's what so much of this conversation was about, that these are 5 swinging doors kind of guys, where if any of them could have gotten a player on their team of similar caliber to Chet and Jalen Williams, or who had a splash brother like Clay, or who had, like if they had a number 2 and a number 3 like Steph did and like LeBron did in Cleveland and like SGA now has in OKC, maybe we talk about these guys way differently. I don't know the answer to that because the ball bounced the way that it did bounce. But I think that we could look back in 20 years and say that one of these 5 guys could be on a list.
The difficult thing for me with this conversation is weighing the difference between the probability and the possibility, right? Is it possible for Booker, Mitchell, Brunson, Brown to be there? Sure. There is a possibility. There's a world where Devin Booker is on the Knicks and he's with Brunson and he's the best player, or Brunson's the best player and they win 3 or 4 championships and we're having a different conversation, right? So the possibility exists, but the probability, if you were to put betting odds for any of these guys to be a top 30 player of all time, I mean, we're talking about plus 50,000 odds, in my opinion. Like,
Sign me up.
I don't think, yeah, I think maybe that'd be a good bet. But at the end of the day, I don't think you're going to be cashing out.
That'll do it for another episode of the Glue Guy podcast. I'll apologize one last time for the many addendums and caveats that were a part of this show, but appreciate everyone's patience as we get a little bit better every week. A reminder that as you have thoughts, takes, opinions, if you disagree with Xavier, Michael, Bill, and myself, please share all of that at theglueguypodcast.com or email us at glueguypodcast@gmail.com. Enjoy this week's episode, and we'll see you at our regularly scheduled time next week.